Alrighty. Welcome to the Project Lead the Way PLC report. This is also going to cover us as like a CTE group, specifically Jake, James, Eric, and Andrew, um, and what we do mostly for our morning classes. So, just to get us going, a little bit of a process and what we are shooting for with our PLC. We've set a goal each semester over the last couple semesters to improve our pre-test state test scores by at least 15% into the post-test. Um, we've recently gained access to a state-supported pretest, and it's given us a really cool data point to start right off from, and we are able to take that on like the first or second day of class, and then start working towards improving the students' knowledge until the last day when we take, well, before the last day, but um, when we are able to finally see the results of our final state test. If you're not familiar with how the class works, we do rotate the students. So we each get our own class at the beginning of the year, the semester, and then because each one of us has different expertise in terms of engineering, and engineering is such a broad course or subject, we rotate those students between us. So, for example, students can learn about aerospace from Eric, who has extensive experience and knowledge in that, whereas I do not. But then they can learn about software engineering and some of the other aspects of engineering for me in a space where I might have a little more knowledge. Or, in the case of me and Eric, it's really I get the stuff that's like easier to grasp because I've never been to engineering school or anything like that. But it allows us to really kind of have that mindset that's important in a PLC where all students are our students, right? In this case, they really are. We are passing our students around, and they all become kind of our students that we're shepherding and trying to help succeed. So, um, again, our goal is to improve over 15% throughout the semester from the pretest to the post-test through this kind of like student rotation system that's worked pretty well over the last couple of semesters. Now, first question, what will we teach our students? Well, we focus solely on the engineering technology strands and standards. We did have a Project Lead the Way class that the outcomes looked very similar, but the activities in the Project Lead the Way class were a little more advanced, and honestly, they felt pretty boring for a ninth grader. And so what we've done is we've pulled away from Project Lead the Way. We feel we still would reach those goals, but we've pulled away from Project Lead the Way and focused more on the state test engineering technology. And we do our best to satisfy those requirements. We've divided them up amongst the four of us to cover different strands and standards, or sometimes we're mixing and matching those. And then finally, we supplement those with some of our other fun activities. James does a Jurassic Park build where they get to build and program and wire a Jurassic Park gate. And then in my class, they do, or in my unit, they do a city block redesign where we get a real life city block that looks like a horrible place to be and live, and they redesign it to make it more enjoyable and more satisfactory to what the city's needs are. So those are not necessarily tied up with any of the strands and standards, but they're just supplemental activities that they can do. And those are just to name a few. We have several. Um, Now, how will we know that they're learning it? We focus almost completely on bell ringers for this because we don't have a time where we can all give a formative assessment because the students are learning everything at a different pace. So again, like I said, we rotate these kids. So my students are going to learn about education and careers and engineering, and then they're going to move to Andrew's students, and they're going to then learn about 3D printing and 3D modeling, and then and some other important engineering concepts. Um, and so they're going to be at one point in the class, but the students who started with Eric are going to learn about aerospace and the things he covers, as well as what James covers, electricity and pressure and things like that. And so we never have a moment in the class until the very end where all the students are at the same point and we could give a kind of a joint formative assessment to see where they're at. So instead, what done is we've developed a lot of questions that are built to look very similar to um, the state test for bell ringers, and we give those every day, and we assess where the students are at, and then we address needs and deficiencies there as we go along. What will we do if they're not learning? Um, we have what we're calling RTI days. Essentially, what it is we look at students and where they're at based on those bell ringers and their grade in the class, and we say, okay, this is the group of students that I think need some extra help with things. Those students get to come into my room, and we have a space for them to work on missing work, to ask questions about things. And there's at least one of us, possibly two of us, who are there to help improve the student's understanding of the content material. I put Andrew's name into ChatGPT and asked it to turn him into a Raven person, and this is what it gave us. So if you're ever curious what Andrew would look like as a Raven person, this is what it is. But for the students who are improving or who are doing really well in class, we always give them an extra activity that they can do. So we're not taking the whole class and putting it on pause. The students who are excelling and doing well, they get to do something fun and interesting, an engineering puzzle. So we have a tinfoil boat here. I don't actually think we've done tinfoil boats, but we've done activities very similar where the students have a problem, they have to solve the problem within the given time. The nice thing about this is the students get caught up and they seem to understand things. If we feel they're doing well within the day that we're doing this RTI, we can move them to the extra activity and they can just jump right in and start having fun. What would we do to push students further? Well, we have lots of activities. I kind of brought this up before, that go above and beyond what we're expecting them to actually know to reach our goal at the end. And so we have 3D printing activities. Eric is good with the flight simulator. We also do a web design activity assignment where the sky's the limit in a lot of these. They can do so much with those and move past it. And so we have supplemental things that they can jump into and do more in, and they're not just sitting there twiddling their thumbs. Finally, the capital off, we do have some successes and struggles. One of our greatest successes, and we have data to back this up, is we are able to reach that 15% goal semester over semester. In fact, we just recently, last week, took the state test, and we were able to improve not by 15%, but by 18%, which was awesome. We are 10% above the state average in our final tests, and it's cool to see the success that we're having as we've started doing this and measuring these things. The downside, that some of the struggles that we've had, is we are all in other, some of us are in other, district-wide PLCs, but some of us don't have another group. So we don't really have a way for us to kind of get the benefit that we're getting out of our STEM Essentials PLC and use it in our other classes, which can be a big bummer, because we were talking even today when we met as a PLC that it would be awesome if we could get into groups that ran as smoothly and as effectively as ours do. And so even to the point where today we were talking and it was like, well, we're hitting this goal, we're hitting this 15% every semester. What could we do to further improve? What could we do to push ourselves? Because we really do work well together and we're seeing a lot of success with it. And so it's been really positive, but we'd like to be able to stretch those things that we've learned in that PLC into other PLCs that we're in, or build PLCs, because I know Andrew and Eric for sure are teaching classes that no one else in the district teaches, and so they don't have that support or those opportunities. But yeah, that is our report for Project Lead the Way and CTE here at WIC.